Okay, welcome guys to our presentation today. My name's Trevor, and we are hosting what we're calling local keyword phrase selection and research. That'll be the topic. We'll need 15 or 20 minutes to cover this, so sit tight with me, grab a pen and paper, take some notes. There should be a little chat section there for those of you guys who are here live, so you can chat in questions and comments as we have this. This discussion today is more designed for those of you guys who own local businesses. Okay. Now, some of the concepts will apply to you guys that have internet businesses that are more nationwide, but I'm going to cater my remarks a bit more to those of you guys who own local businesses. So this would be for, restaurant owners, or, maybe you own a little plumbing company, or maybe you have a local daycare you're trying to promote, right? Maybe a little coffee shop. Maybe you do carpet cleaning, for a region locally where you are, or house cleaning, or whatever the local business is. Okay, this is for you guys that are trying to figure out how to do keyword research on a local level. Now, here's the beauty about doing local keyword phrase research. You people who have, and we'll do this. We'll say we're doing like a daycare. So that's our example today. Is let's assume our business is a daycare. Okay. So if I own this daycare, who are my customers? Well, my customer isn't somebody in another state or even 200 miles away in another city. My customers are going to be local to my area. So I'm going to say today, since my office here is located in Pleasant Grove, Utah, I'm going to put Pleasant Grove, Utah. Okay. We're going to say that's where our little daycare business is located. And I want to know, as a business owner, what keywords people are using to search for my service, right? Now, these keywords may not be searched a whole lot because they're local. An example of a keyword phrase maybe would be something like daycare Pleasant Grove, right? That might be something somebody actually types into Google. And I would, of course, want my daycare website to show up there, wouldn't I? Or daycare Utah County. Okay, that's the county we're in. We're in Utah County, it's called. So maybe I want to rank for daycare Utah County. These are just ideas coming off the top of my head, and usually when you're doing keyword research at the very beginning, one of the first steps, and you guys have been taught this that are doing keyword research for more of a nationwide or worldwide type business. Usually some of your ideas are some of the intuitive ideas that come right off the top of your head, right? The things that you would do if you were looking for a local daycare business, this is what you would type in, right? Sure, and that's a thought too, Bernice. Maybe some people, instead of 2 words daycare, they're going to do one word. So instead of daycare 2 words, we're going to do daycare Pleasant Grove, right? Or daycare Utah County. Okay, these are guesses that we're making right now. But I want better research than that. I want more concrete research. And here's the challenge. The typical keyword tools that we teach you guys to use. And name some of those. What are some of the keyword tools we have you guys use when you're doing keyword phrase research? How about this one right here? Keywordtool.io is one to help us come up with ideas. Right? What else, guys? What else do we like to use? What do you use as a keyword tool? How about this one? I don't know if I've talked much about this one. Ubersuggest.io is a good one. How about the Google Adwords keyword planner? You know what I'm talking about? That's the AdWords planner. The big famous Google one is one that we use sometimes, right? Moz is a useful one. Okay, these are just some general ones that we use. Well, and the list could go on here, but let me tell you guys, there's a problem with these keyword phrase tools. These tools are really centered around showing you information about keywords that are searched often. Like if you're using keywordtool.io or really any of these for that matter, the data they show is most often for the most popular keyword phrases. So when I'm like this small business here, right, out in Utah County, I own a little daycare, it's likely that I'm not going to get a lot of data for daycare Utah County. It's not popular enough, right? Likely it's not. Whether I own a plumbing company or I serve Italian food at a little local restaurant, it's likely that because those keywords are not searched all but maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 times a month, maybe 10 or 15 times a month, because they're searched so little, the major tools don't catch them. So can you guys see the issue at hand here? It's like we're stuck here. We're on our own because the major tools won't give us suggestions for good local keyword phrases. And if you want to market a business on a local level, you're going to have a hard time with that. And guess what, guys? Since a lot of you guys are learning how to do marketing online, I know this may not apply to some of you because a lot of you guys don't have problems with these tools because they find good keywords for you because your products are products that sell nationwide. And therefore, they get more searches. But when you're stuck on local search, the keyword research is tougher. And I think it's important you guys understand some of the workarounds. Because you know what? At some point or another, if you tell enough people that you know how to do internet marketing, it will surprise you how many people will refer you to a friend who's opening a restaurant, or maybe you know a local plumber or carpet cleaner that needs help doing some marketing online. One thing you guys can do with your education here is you can do your own consulting on a local level. I can't tell you how many clients, and on a personal level, how many times, almost countless times over the years, that through networking or just through mentioning that I know how to do search engine optimization, I get referred to people all the time where they're like, "Hey, Trevor, would you mind doing a little consulting? We'll pay you, we'll pay you $500 if you'll sit down with us for a couple hours or whatever it is, and really help us get a grip on how to do some local SEO." This skill set's critical. So I know some of you guys are in your chairs thinking, "Nah, I don't know how this is going to help me, but it will." This will help you make money. I can tell you that for sure. So learn local SEO, and that's why we're having this session today. All right, so if this is the problem, it's hard to come up with how people are searching for these less sought after keyword phrases, then what's the solution? Well, I've got a few thoughts on that. So I'm going to share with you a couple of solutions, 2 or 3 solutions that we feel like will help you with your keyword phrase research for lesser known keyword phrases. Okay, number 1. We're going to say, I'm trying to think how I want to describe this. Let me tell you this. So in this example, I don't know how many of you guys know where this is. Let me show you a map to give you some perspective. Okay, I'm going to show you where Pleasant Grove, Utah is. It's not a big place. Sorry, Google Maps is being slow right now. This is going to be kind of hard for you to see, but I'm going to circle it so you guys can see, okay? If this is Utah, there we go, that's a little bit better. Most of you guys have probably not heard of Pleasant Grove, but I would imagine most of you guys have heard of Salt Lake City, right? Pleasant Grove represents, and I'm going to circle this in red. Pleasant Grove, it's about like, I don't know, this isn't exact, but it represents about that much area right there, okay, where I circled. That's Pleasant Grove, okay? Whereas like this right up here, this is Salt Lake City. And then you've got Orem, which is a bigger area, and you've got Provo right here, which is a bigger area. So Pleasant Grove is relatively small in relation to these big areas, right? Here's why I show you the relative size. What would you say, there are more people or fewer people who type in daycare Pleasant Grove versus daycare Salt Lake City? Are there more people typing in daycare Salt Lake City or more people typing in daycare Pleasant Grove? Intuitively. Yeah, sure. Daycare Salt Lake City. Why? Because it represents a larger area. There's more people who live in that metropolitan area, so it's likely that more searches happen for daycare Salt Lake City. As a result, if I'm trying to come up with keyword phrases using the major tools like we just talked about, I would be better searching for daycare Salt Lake City to see what kind of results come up. Because the reality is, if I do daycare Pleasant Grove, I may not get any numbers at all. But if I do daycare Salt Lake City, I may start getting numbers. And that's an important distinction, because then I can say to myself, well, you know, let's say Salt Lake City is, I don't know, 6 times the size. In fact, let's do an example of this using let's use the Moz tool. You get 2 free searches a day on the Moz tool, by the way, guys. Moz.com/explorer. So I'm going to do daycare. Daycare Pleasant Grove, Utah. Okay, that'll be my keyword search here. Or I'm sorry, not Pleasant Grove, Utah. Let me back that up. Actually, well, this is actually a good example because I'm not getting any results here. You'll notice on this particular tool, under the monthly volume, it gives me no data, right? Let's see if it gives me data in Salt Lake, because Salt Lake is just generally a bigger area. So we're going to do daycare Salt Lake. Do a search. Or maybe we could do daycare Salt Lake City. And see if the bigger metropolitan area will give us something. So that didn't give us anything. Let's try daycare Salt Lake City. This is the challenge, right? Using these tools with local keyword phrases. There you go. This actually gave us something. So this is saying somewhere between 0 and 10 searches happen for this every month. Okay? And if on average, let's say on average a month it's 5, if Pleasant Grove is 1/5 of the size of Salt Lake City, which it may be, you know, maybe a little less than that, we can anticipate there's probably only 1 search a month for this if we're looking at it in terms of Pleasant Grove. Now, if we do a search for Pleasant Grove, daycare Pleasant Grove, it's not going to give us any data. But if it's giving us on average maybe 5 in Salt Lake, based on what we know about city size, I can deduce from that Pleasant Grove is probably, you know, 1 search a day. Do you see what I'm doing here, guys? I'm using a bigger metropolitan area to get keyword concepts and ideas, and then I'm scaling them down for the smaller metropolitan area or urban area that is Pleasant Grove. Okay, does that make sense? That's a way that you can figure out keyword searches. Now, we just typed in one example. That's daycare Salt Lake City. What about this one? What about childcare Salt Lake City? Let's do a search for that and see if that gives us anything. Remember, people search in different ways. See, this is another one. It gave us 0 to 10. So we could guess maybe 5 for that. So I would make a note and I would say, okay, maybe there's another 1 or 2 searches a month for that childcare Pleasant Grove. And I'd make a note, right? So on and so forth. So that, hopefully, guys, are you following that? Does that make sense? I'm not sure if that's clear or not, or if that's a little bit of a confusing concept. But what I would call this solution is I would say do, how do I want to word this? Do research on larger areas and then scale down to your area. Okay? Yeah, I feel like you guys are getting it. Most of you guys are shaking your head, or at least I can guess you're shaking your head. You guys are typing that it's making sense. Good. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Google Suggest is still extremely valuable. So when you go to google.com, and this works with YouTube, it works with Bing, it works with other major search engines. Watch this. If I type in childcare and then I start writing, right, notice that I haven't typed it in fully. I typed in childcare Pleasant. I didn't finish it. See how it makes suggestions? Google's not stupid. They know what people are typing in. If it's suggesting in Google childcare Pleasant Grove, Utah, it is very likely that's getting typed in. Now, how often is it getting typed in? I don't know, but it's getting typed in enough that Google wants to suggest that to us. And if I keep carrying on, Pleasant Grove, notice the suggestions continue to change, and I see childcare Pleasant Grove, Utah, daycare Pleasant Grove, Utah, Pleasant Grove daycare in a different order. Now, guys, are these keywords saying the same thing? They are, aren't they? Whoever's typing in these 3 keyword phrases, even though it's a different keyword phrase, is that my potential customer? It absolutely is. And so what we're trying to discover here is, how are real people out there, real moms and dads who need daycare and childcare in the Pleasant Grove area, how are those people looking for my service? And most local businesses have no idea. But using the Google Suggest here, this is a tremendous way to do it because this will give you some ideas. They're using childcare. It suggested daycare. It suggested daycare as one word. I would also argue it'll probably do childcare as one word, and that should give you some ideas to extrapolate out. One thing I will tell you too, and that I've learned relatively recently, is that if you do this same exercise, not on a computer but on a phone, often the phone, the mobile version of Google, will produce slightly different results, even sometimes more results that you wouldn't have been able to find otherwise. Because people are on their phones so much, sometimes the phone results are different than what people would type in if they were actually at a computer. And the variation, I think, is due to the fact that, you know, when you've got a keyboard, it's easier to type in things versus when you've got a phone, you know, it may be a little more difficult and, you know, more misspellings and stuff. So bottom line is, you can do this research on both mobile and a desktop and get varying results that you can use. Okay? That's solution number 2. So let me actually write that in our notes. You guys following that okay? Does that make sense? I'm going to call it Google Suggest research. Get ideas from Google directly. Okay, that's what we'll say. Okay, you guys following along with that? Okay, number 3. Stop me if you aren't, and please ask questions if some of this isn't making sense. This is a really cool tool that I'm going to show you real quick. This is called SEMRush. SEMRush.com, and I'm going to go ahead and note this here in our research. Okay, and when you get here to this search bar, you can type in one of your ideas that you've come up with. We've come up with daycare. What did we come up with? Daycare Pleasant Grove, Utah. Okay, let's do a search and let's see if that gives us anything. When you do a search here, what you can do is you can choose this option right here, related keywords. Okay, so on SEMRush, put in your keyword, then find the related keywords section. And this will give you suggested keywords based on what you typed in. Other potential alternatives. Now, in this case, if I went too specific, daycare, Pleasant Grove, Utah, and it didn't produce any keywords, let's make it even more general. Let's just do daycare, Utah, and see if that gives us something. Because really, we're looking for this to suggest to us other ways to say daycare and other things people might be typing in. All right, here we go. It's producing results for us, which is good. You can tell, guys, I don't like to pre-run the numbers and stuff because that's not real, right? If I just pre-did all this and made sure there weren't any problems, this wouldn't be grounded in reality. The reality is when you're doing keyword research, nothing works perfectly. And so I hope you're seeing this here. So we have to improvise a little bit. So I put in a more general search, and as you guys can see, let me zoom in on the screen if I can. Of course, it may not let me. No, of course, it's not going to let me right now, so you're going to have to squint with your eyes a little bit. See these keywords that it suggested? It's suggesting child care with a space, Utah. It's also suggesting child care put together. Daycare put together. And then it's doing child care with the word in Utah. Daycares, plural, in Utah. Daycare in Utah. Care about child care, Utah. I'm not sure if that's going to be related. Utah child care. Child care Salt Lake City, Utah. But they use the abbreviation there. Child care Salt Lake City, Utah. So how do I use this? Well, I've noticed some different variations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write all these down, and I'm going to say, okay, child care with a space, but instead of Utah, I'm going to do Pleasant Grove. And then I'm going to do child care together as one word, and then I'm going to put in Pleasant Grove. And then I'll do daycare, one word, Pleasant Grove. Child care in Pleasant Grove. Do you see what I'm doing? So I'm taking the general terms and I'm making them more specific, and it's likely that the more specific ones related to Pleasant Grove are not searched for as often. But I'm telling you, if people in larger areas, like the state of Utah as a whole, or in Salt Lake City, which is a larger area than Pleasant Grove, if those people are typing in these types of keywords, is it safe to assume that the people in my smaller area are likely typing it in the same way, but instead using the word Pleasant Grove? We can make that assumption. Yes, they are, right? And that's the whole point of this exercise, is to come up with these keywords that otherwise the major tools won't show us. And if I then took this research and I showed, my client who's a daycare provider, or my client who's a plumber, or whoever you're working with on a local level from a consulting standpoint, or if you're working with a local business of your own, this research right here is gold, because even though these keyword phrases don't get searched for that often, local keyword phrases convert on a massive level. Like if there's only 4 searches done every month for childcare Pleasant Grove, but you can get your site to come up at the top, and you're able to convert like 1 or 2 of those into kids in your childcare, that ranking could be worth thousands of dollars to you every single year. If I own a little Italian restaurant in Pleasant Grove or in Utah County, and when somebody types in Italian food, Utah County, and I can get my site to be at the very top, or reviews for it to be at the very top, that could generate thousands of dollars worth of business to my little restaurant, right? I hope you guys see the value here of local keyword research. It's harder. There's less data for it. You have to be more creative. But I'll tell you, it converts better. And I'll tell you the other thing that's great about it is the competition just isn't out there nearly on the same level. Like a lot of you guys are looking at domestic, sort of like nationwide type keywords, and those are often a lot more competitive. These types of keywords are way easy. Create a landing page, you've got a website, a really simple website, you do a little SEO for it, and then boom. If you know the keywords that you're supposed to be targeting, you're number one in Google easily, and sometimes within the space of like 2 or 3 weeks. So it's pretty powerful stuff, and that's why if you know, if you do mention on occasion to friends and family and neighbors that you know this stuff, you will get referrals, and you can do a little bit of consulting on the side. And maybe that's not what you're interested in, but to some of you, you may be. And I think, I mean, it's a skill that people need all the time. So I hope that was helpful. So this whole thing is more of a local search strategy, Bob and Nancy. Yeah. I think some of the elements of what we talked about could certainly correspond to some, you know, larger keyword research, you know, on a grander scale. But no, most of my commentary tonight is very much directed to local. Yeah, well, no, yes and no. So to your question, Shelly's looking at these numbers here because there's volume here. This is accurate volume, but it's not necessarily the same stuff you're going to see on Moz. And like, you know, some of these other figures here, it's not going to be the same Moz information. It's very specific to SEMRush, but you can look at the relative numbers. I mean, Utah child care is at 50, but daycare in Utah is at 210. You can use these relative to each other. I'm not sure how accurate the volume scores are here, just because I don't use this for volume. I just use this for generating ideas. That's how I would explain it. Oh yeah, sure. I can show you the note page again, and then we'll finish up. Hold on just a sec. Related keywords is the section. There you go. So we talked about the problem, right? The problem is local keywords are hard to discover because the major tools don't show them very well. And we've got solutions here, number 1, 2, and 3. Okay? We'll go ahead and post this online, guys. I sure appreciate you being here. I hope this was instructive, and hope this helps you with your internet businesses. Good luck to you guys, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks again.